Did you know that you can add hundreds of thousands of pounds of value to properties without actually refurbing it or doing any work? Now, this is by extending the lease. Now, right now is the perfect time to do this because the laws are changing, and we're going to be explaining on this week's show exactly how you can do just that. Now, my name is Russell Leeds.
And I'm Anna Leeds.
And welcome to the Property Investors Podcast.
Exciting topic this week.
You know what? It actually really is an exciting topic because, as you know, the laws are changing right now. This is all a bit up in the air, and you won't be able to do this forever. This is going to get phased out. So it's something that you can do right now. You can make an awful lot of money. I know many investors that are jumping on this. We've got a property right now. We are doing this ourselves.
We certainly are.
So yeah, very exciting topic. So first of all, this only works on leasehold properties.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, the difference between freehold and leasehold. So freeholds, when you own the property, you own the land, you own the building, you own everything. So it's buying a house. Anything like that, when you own your own house, that's freehold. Now, leasehold is apartments. We've got a masonette, haven't we, above shops?
Yeah, which is leasehold.
Which is leasehold because, obviously, and that means you basically own the right to occupy that space, but you don't own the building or anything at the land it's on. You just have the right to be in that space.
It's quite funny, isn't it? Because you think I'm buying a flat. You think you're buying the flat, but like you say, you don't own the land. It makes sense though, really, because if you had, say 10 flats on top of each other, well, who owns the land? Is it flat one? Flat because they're on the ground?
Yeah, who's going to do the garden, the communal garden? So, for example, ours has got, it's above shops, isn't it? And it's got courtyards. Who cleans that? Who cleans the steps?
Yeah, and what about if you've got someone, because obviously with a house, like you might have a street and one person keeps their garden really nice and the other person doesn't give a toss. So what's going to happen is the person next door that would have had scruffy grass is just going to get their grass cut for free by the person who
wants to care. Yeah.
So it would make a situation where it wasn't fair. Or what about the roof? There's a problem with the roof. Do we go, what's the top floor? That's a problem.
Yeah, if you own the top floor, that's...
But what about this problem with the ceiling caves in? Is it your ceiling or is it their floor?
Yeah,
no, it gets complicated, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And I didn't understand when we first got our property. I was just like, that's a joke. You've got to pay ground rent. Like, it's only...
Yeah, do I have to pay it?
Yeah. And we were like, no, we're fine, thanks. And they were like...
It's for painting the stairs. No, we don't want to paint the stairs.
And they're like, no, it's not. You haven't got an option. And we're like, oh, okay then.
We were naive 21-year-olds.
Yeah.
Well, you were 20. We didn't know. Yeah, we're like, what? Ground rent? What? Service charge? What's all this?
Yeah.
I don't want to pay that. No, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Now, interestingly, you mentioned about houses are freehold. You're right, but some houses are actually leasehold as well. So there was a sneaky trick a lot of developers did. And it's not very Commonhold. It's banned now.
Yeah.
But a few years ago, sneaky tricks. So what they would do is they'd build a road and they'd say, oh, the houses on this road are leasehold houses. So people would buy the leasehold and they'd think, it's pretty the same as buying a flat. But then what they'd do is they'd hike up the rents of the ground rents after the term had finished.
Yeah.
And then these houses were basically like worthless now. But the developer had sold them on. They didn't care. They're getting all this. So it kind of screwed people over. So you've sort of been banned, that has. But yeah, it's quite interesting.
That's not cool, is it?
No. So yeah, that's the difference between leasehold and freehold. Now, the interesting thing is, let's say you bought a freehold flat and it had 50 years left on the lease and you did nothing with it. After 50 years, then just take it off you.
Yeah, which is crazy. I also didn't realise that when we bought ours. I've learnt it in latter years. That's insane, isn't it? I just thought I was really lackadaisy about, I was like, yeah, the lease hasn't got that much on it. Who cares? Like, we've still got 50 odd years. I mean, that's pretty much the rest of our life.
Yeah.
Who cares? And then when it was like, no, but then it would just get taken. I was shocked.
It is shocking.
Because then I kind of feel like, what are you actually buying into then?
Well, you're just buying the lease, aren't you?
Yeah,
you know,
it's almost like the ultimate renting in one way. It's like, because they can just take it back. You don't own the building. I feel like actually it's
also, I know someone who
really not that great.
rented. They had a leasehold flat, and they were renting it out as service accommodation. And that was against the rules of the lease. That's the other thing, is you've got to abide by the rules of the lease. And the freeholder, person who owned the freehold and everything, just said to them, well, if you carry on renting it out as service accommodation, we are going to take the property off you because you're in breach of your contract.
That's crazy.
And it was a £1 million apartment in London.
Wow. That is mad, isn't it?
Yeah. And he was like, okay, I think I'll stop. It's interesting. Anyway, that's leasehold and freehold.
So on that, quickly on that subject then, if you are trying to get a rent to rent for serviced accommodation and want an apartment, you've got to be very, very careful.
You've got to check the lease.
Yeah.
Check
you
the
can't
lease.
just assume, just because the landlord, like the person will let you do it, you've got to be very careful.
Well, ultimately, it's the landlord's responsibility, not yours.
Yeah, true.
However, if they turn around to the landlord and say, you've got to stop, and you've now spent money on it, and time and effort advertising it and setting it up, and
we're not for that. We're not that for apartments, are we? Even though I love an apartment.
I do. I don't love the leasehold. I'm not a fan of leasehold, to be honest. However, here's the news. So this is what's changing.
The good news. The good news is coming.
The good news is coming. So the government have pledged recently that they want to get rid of leasehold completely. And they want to replace it with what we call Commonhold. And this is actually more popular in other countries. We've obviously been big leasehold people here, but yes, it's Commonhold. So what they're saying is for new flats, it won't be leasehold, it'll be Commonhold. Now, Commonhold is a bit like... not like leasehold, but obviously you've still got the same problem, right? You've still got the same problem of, well, who's going to fix the roof? Who's going to do this? So what Commonhold says is rather than there being a third party that owns it, that you all pay for a lease, all the owners of the flats own a share of the communal areas, the building, the land. So you'd never have your lease running out. You own a part of it. A bit like our road, actually. So out here, we own the freehold to this house.
Yep.
And we own the land
because
that
it's
we're on.
Private estate, who owns the road? Who
pays for the gate?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not a council-adopted road.
Yeah.
So if there's a pothole in the road, we have to pay for it because we, Commonhold, own the road. Commonhold own the gardens. We've got to pay for the gardener, not on our land, but in the road.
Yes.
We've got to, if the gate gets broken, we had to pay £1,000, didn't we? Because the gate got broken and we all had to chip in, right? That's Commonhold. So they want to make all flats like that, which I think from a flat owner point of view is a really good thing.
Yeah, because then you actually do own it. No one's going to take it away.
No, you're not going to run out of short lease. You're not going to have any problems. Okay, so this is coming in. So leasehold will probably become a thing of the past. However, what they're not going to do is scrap off all the current leaseholds.
Okay, so they're not going to change people that currently are on a leasehold.
It's just new ones.
Just new ones, okay.
Okay, so how can you benefit from this? Like, what's the actual, we said it was good news. Obviously, Commonhold coming in is good news, but how is this good news? Well, there's a few things. First of all, as an entrepreneur, you've got to look for problems, you've got to solve the problems, right?
Of course.
So what's the problem with leasehold? The problem with leasehold is short leases.
Yeah.
So anything less than 80 years, we class as a short lease.
Which is, again, like, I thought that was amazing because 80 years, once you bought a property, that's your life, isn't it?
Yeah.
You own it for your life. So I thought that was quite a long lease, I assumed, and then was shocked when I found how much just having 80 years devalues the property. That's another massive neg.
Yeah.
Is how much, obviously, we're going to go on to how this can actually...
Well, 70 to 80 years, less than 80 years, 70 to 80 years knocks about 10 to 20% off your property. Right, so if you had a 200 grand property, and it had somewhere between 70 and 80 years off, you're looking at, now it's suddenly worth 160 to 180.
Yeah.
Now, the less it is, the more value it knocks off, right? So if it's 50 to 70 years, you're looking at about 20 to 30% off the value. Less than 50 years is up to 50% of the value. So if you had a lease with, say, 40 years on, it could be worth 100 grand rather than 200 grand, the exact same apartment.
Yeah.
I suppose the reason is because, like you just mentioned, it's for your lifetime. People don't buy property for their lifetime.
No. And once it goes down to zero, like you say, it no longer belongs to you.
Yeah. You've lost it.
Yeah.
It's gone. So the solution is that you extend the lease. And to do that, you've got to agree a deal with the freeholder, the person that owns the actual building. You've got to go to them and go, look, I've only got 4 years left on my lease. I would please like to extend it. Now, here are the sort of the current government guidelines, and this is where it's exciting because this is what the rules are right now, but the government have said they're going to change it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a few rules. First rule is you've got to own the property for 2 years before you can extend it.
Yes.
So if you wanted to do it for a BRR type deal, because when you do the BRR, what you're really doing is you're buying a property, you're finding a way to add value to the property. Now, typically, it's through refurb.
Yeah.
And then once you've got the new value, you're refinancing it. Now, this works for that, right? Because if you buy a short lease, extend the lease, you're adding the value.
Yeah.
You're not having to get on your hands and knees and decorate. You're not having to, build an extension or add in new kitchens. It's literally a paperwork exercise. So it's very, very easy. But you're adding value, and then you can refinance it on the new value, which is great. However, short leases, a couple of problems. First problem is it's difficult to get a mortgage.
Yep.
On a short lease. So especially less than 70 years starts to become very tricky. Less than 80, you're kind of okay, but less than 70 years, you're struggling because they know that the property's going to go down in value, and how their collateral is the property.
Yeah, and knowing that the property can just be taken.
Yeah.
And not by them.
Yeah. Yeah. But even if it's not taken, let's say it's 25 years. Let's say you've got 60 years left, so you've got a 25-year mortgage. If you don't pay, let's say 15 years in, you stop paying, what do? Well, they take your property off you. But now the property's dropped massively in value, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing is it makes it very difficult to get a mortgage. And that's okay for BRR because you can bridge. But if you've got 2 years before you can extend the lease, it kind of ruins it from a BRR point of view and from a bridging point of view and anything. So the first rule is they've scrapped that. That's now gone. So you can now buy it and immediately
that's
extend the
great.
lease, which is great.
Great news.
Great news. Next rule, they've got something called marriage value. Okay, so basically what that means is, we'll go back to our example with the 200 grand property, short lease is only worth 100, right? So if I want to extend the lease, I'll come to you, the freeholder, and I'll say, hello, Anna, the freeholder.
Hello, Russell.
The leaseholder. What I want to do is I want to extend the lease. And you'll say, no problem, let's get it valued then, right? So how much would it be worth once the lease?
So should we go through this? Shall we say, well, the property's worth...
Probably worth 100.
Yeah.
So it will be worth 200.
Yeah.
Once it gets the lease extension.
Yeah.
Now, the marriage value law, what that says is you, the freeholder, person who owns the building, and me, the leaseholder, should share in that benefit as like a marriage, 50-50.
Yeah.
So if we're going to get 100 grand in equity, I've got to pay you 50 grand for you to give me a new lease. So the problem with that is I'm going to have to, so if I own a flat and it's run down, I've got to cash out 50 grand to up the value of my property. Well, people might not have 50 grand.
Yeah, just to go, oh, here you go, just to extend the lease.
Yeah, which is why people are selling short lease properties because they're like, oh, I need to sell it. It's devalued, but I'm stuck, so I can't afford to increase it. Oh, I've got to sell it. So it's really bad. I mean, from a investor's point of view, it's quite good because if I bought the 100 grand property, I pay 50 grand.
And it's now worth instantly.
Now worth 200.
Yeah.
So it's great. So that's the marriage value clause. Now, again, this is getting scrapped. So they've come out, the government have come out and they've said, we're going to scrap marriage value and we're going to work a new way out of paying the leaseholder, and it's going to be more like 25%.
Yeah.
So we now know that I'm now only going to have to pay you 25 grand to get my 100 grand in equity, which means I'm getting 75% of it, which is awesome. So this is also good news. Now, this rule's not come in place yet. The 2-year one, that's in. This one is not in yet, unfortunately, but it is coming. And the final rule is how long you extend the lease for. All right, so typically the lease extension right now is 90 years. That's what they offer you. 90-year extension. They're changing that as well to 990 years.
That's brilliant news, isn't it?
Yeah, because all of a sudden now, it's not like, oh, by the time I'm dead, it will be worth nothing again because now my kids are going to have the problem of extending the lease. Now it's going to be
your kids,
your
kids,
their kids, their kids, their kids, their kids, their kids. They're all going to be dead long
without
before.
Being ridiculous, like, who cares?
What, are you saying you don't care about your great grandchildren?
Wow, I just really haven't put that much thought into them.
that a bit too far off.
That's a bit too. Oh, don't you think though? Come on.
Yeah.
Nearly 1,000 years. No, I'm not thinking about my great grandchildren.
No, it makes sense. Makes sense.
Like, I think they can deal with the problem.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. So knowing this information, now this isn't in place yet. You know what the government are like?
Yep.
Slow. So they've said these are the rules, but when's it actually going to come in? We don't know.
Do we not have an estimate of when it's likely to come in?
No.
No, so it's just
coming in.
Okay.
So right now you're still at the 90-year lease extension. You're still at 50% marriage value. Everything still stands. However, so one of our students, a guy called Elijah, he, knowing this information was coming in, he bought a property in London. I've got the figures here in front of me. He bought it for 175 grand. It's a flat.
Yeah.
Now the flat, it wasn't great. It was okay condition. So he spent 5 grand sprucing it up, new carpets, new paint, liquor paint, that sort of stuff. And the new value of the property, the end value with a lease, was 325 grand, right? So he's bought it for 175, 325 grand. So the equity that he's making there is what, 150 grand?
Yeah.
So under the current rules, it'd be about 75 grand to extend the lease.
Yeah.
So he went to the freeholder and he said, look, I can extend the lease right now and I can pay you 75 grand, like it would get valued at. However, the new rules are coming in and it's going to say that it's half of that. So it's going to be more like 37 and a half grand or something. So why don't I just wait? I don't need to pay you. I'll just wait until the new rules come in.
It's changed, has it? And now it's going to come in and the leaseholders have got all the power.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like you say, just wait.
I'll just wait. Or if you want, I'll do it now, but I'll pay you 45 grand. So I'll give you an extra 7.5 grand, but I want it for 990 years. That's what I'm going to get in a few years.
Yeah.
So you'll get the money today. You'll get a bit more than you're going to get in, I don't know, a year or two when the laws come in. What'd you say? And they were like, yeah, go on then. So we're going to use the new rules to negotiate this deal. So it meant overall figures, bought it for 175, spent 5 grand refurbing it, 45 grand getting the lease extension. So his total money in was 225 grand. And now he's got a property worth 325 grand.
Brilliant.
100 grand profit. And
what a BRR.
It's all your money out. So he made about 20 grand profit. Some of that will have gone on stamp and legals. Yeah. But still, it was pull all your money out deal. And some, made a profit. And now you got a free flat in London that's worth 325 grand. You got all that equity sitting in there. So absolute banging deal. But the thing is, I think now is the time to do this because it won't be around forever.
No.
Commonhold is coming in. You know, so and once these leases start getting extended for 990 years, there's going to become less and less and less of them.
Well, yeah, because that's how. Then suddenly it's not really a problem anymore, is it?
No. And also, right now, people don't really know about the new rules. They're not coming in yet. But if you can find these properties right now, that'd be great. What do you think of the new Commonhold rules coming in?
Oh, it's interesting because I do think it's great in terms of, I think, if someone, because all I think is, if someone's put their life savings in to own and they go and buy themselves an apartment, they deserve to have the right to own that apartment. Not, if you don't extend the lease, it gets taken off you. If it just, I feel like it gives them that. No, that does belong to me. I'm not held over a barrel by Mr. Leasehold, who owns the lease.
Mr. Freehold,
sorry. I think they then own property just like everyone else.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. Commonhold, I feel like works in if everyone's really reasonable and lovely, and it's got its issues. So obviously here on this estate, we've had slight ups and downs. So the person that actually lived in this house before we bought it, because this house was rented out before we lived here. Every year, the guy down the road, heads it all up. We all have to put a few thousand in for the maintenance. Every year, the guy that lived here, they used to have to take to court to get the money. I mean, you'd think he'd learn, and after the first year of losing in court, he'd just think cash up. Every year, they had to take him to court to get him to pay.
Yeah.
And I just think...
Do you know as well, I thought it was really funny, because I was chatting to the guy who heads up the estate, and he was telling me the same story, and he was like, I took him to the pub, and I was like, come on. He's like, why are you not paying? You know, this is ridiculous now. And he's like, no, I don't think, I'm only renting it. I don't think Anyway, he got into conversation with him. Turns out he owned he told him, he goes, I actually own a Premier League football club, right? And he was like, our guy here didn't believe him. He said, so I went home.
Because if you do, why are you squabbling about $3,000 that you have to pay?
Yeah, he's like, I looked it up, and he did. It's like he owns a Premier League football club, and he's here stingily not wanting to pay the £1,000 to fix the gates.
Do you know what? Interesting though. I never actually thought about that because I just pay it without thinking because I own it. Whose responsibility is it if he rents it? Because I never thought about that. So who should be paying the ground rent? Him or the person that actually owns?
I suppose
I've never actually thought about that. Maybe his point was, great, go to the owner. Not I don't know who does it legally come down to then.
Well, he lost in court, didn't he? So
not him.
But yeah, I know what you mean. I suppose it's whatever's in the contract, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd have to read your contract.
Your rental agreement. Because you're right, because the leasehold property that we're talking about that we bought ages ago, not the one we're extending, we pay it, not the tenant.
Yeah, so then, therefore, why should this guy have paid it?
Yeah.
Or maybe we should go back to our tenant and go, excuse me.
Excuse me, yeah, you owe us. You owe us 15 years of...
Yeah, backdate it for a bit. And then I also know, so I've got friends who have the same... Now, I feel like on this estate, it's only got, is it 8?
8 houses, yeah.
So it's quite easy to manage. Everyone's quite reasonable. We're actually the youngest by an absolute mile. Everyone else has been here and they've all settled it there. So I think everyone plays ball.
No one else on this estate would wear a podcast... do a podcast wearing a cap, would they?
No, they certainly wouldn't. It would be suits, probably, in this estate. Now, my friend lives on an estate down the road. And literally, every time and bear in mind, I've got a tank of a car.
Yeah.
It nearly writes my car off every time I go down their road.
Pothole galore. It's bad, isn't it?
It is really bad. And I'm thinking, flipping out, I've got like an off-road vehicle that should...
And why don't they fix it?
Yeah, because I said to her, I was like, what is going on with your road? And she said that every year they argue about it and then nothing ever gets done.
They argue about how to fix it.
How much they're going to spend, and then they can never come to an agreement and it just never gets done. And I just thought, oh, that's rubbish though, isn't it?
That is rubbish. I thought what happened was with Commonhold, and other than my little experience here, it's not something I've had much experience with, but I thought it was a case of sort of one person, or they get a committee of people who are kind of responsible, and then they just sort of tell everyone what's going to happen, and they get voted in potentially, or they put stuff out to vote. Is that not how they're doing it there? Is it just
well, I don't know, because do you just automatically? So now if you buy an apartment, Commonhold,
it's like, oh, by the way, John from flat 4. That's what happened to us.
Yeah.
We moved here. It was just like.
And is like whoever buys that first apartment in the block is like, Dave owns it now. Dave makes
these
the decisions.
two headed up, and they send out the emails and tell us what the costs are. Oh, we've had the gate fixed. It's going to be this. Could you all transfer us over the money? And we just do it, don't we?
Yeah. But imagine if you lived in an apartment block and then the people that run it just went, we decided we were going to renovate the lift and the 100 grand. Everyone needs to put 20 grand in. And you just had I don't know.
Yeah.
Quite. Do
you know what though?
Do you have to, in the Commonhold though, I think you have to ask to be part of the committee. So here it's just like they ask our kind of opinion. Everyone's quite reasonable. I think the Commonhold on like apartments.
They could put stuff to vote, couldn't they?
Yeah, and I think you have to apply to be part of the committee. Otherwise, it is just told.
Do you know what though? At least with this, the people that live there are making the decisions. The problem with freeholders is obviously they don't even live there. They don't care. So
yeah, if the roof looks a bit mouldy, at their expense, they don't.
Yeah, who cares? They've just got to cash it out. Especially if they've got a set fee. So what they were doing is they were charging like really expensive ground rents and service charges, and then just not doing anything and letting it go to rack and ruin. Or they were doing it, but they were getting backhanders. So they were getting insurance, for example, but they were using an expensive insurance that gave them a kickback.
Yeah,
they were affiliates for and stuff like that. So they were kind of abusing the system. Whereas it's a lot harder to do that as a common holder, especially as you live. Unless it's like, right, we've all decided we're having a swimming pool put into flat 1.
Yeah. But
I live in flat 1, by the way.
What would happen if what happened to our friend's road on their estate happened in an apartment block, though, and they could never decide, and then as a collective or would it just be, well, that's on them. It's their property. They've devalued it by letting it go to ruin.
I suppose so, but unless I imagine they'd put it to a vote. But what do you mean if people just voted that they didn't want to do it?
So then it just never got sorted like their road.
It's very annoying if you were a tidy person and everyone else that lived on
Didn't care.
Didn't care, yeah.
Or if you did have few that just didn't pay and refused to pay.
Though, you might say it would devalue the flats, which it probably would. But that would, imagine if you lived on a street and everyone else on the street treated their house like crap, boarded up the windows, really long garden, that would massively devalue your home as well.
Yeah, true. And you'd just move, wouldn't you, if you didn't like it?
So you're always going to be a little bit
bent over
by the people that, unless you're living on a ranch miles away from anywhere else, you're gonna be impacted by your neighbours and people that live among you. It's just
it just is the way it is.
And most people want to keep their house, especially if you live in a nice area. Most people that live in a nice area want to keep their house to a certain standard, don't they?
They do. And I do think overall, minus those little teething problems of kind of how people get on, if people are willing to pay, I think overall it gives the owner who's bought it the rights they should have to own that property. They're actually homeowners, aren't they? Rather than, I feel like you say, it's almost like they really only rent it.
Yeah.
Because if they don't pay that lease, they get taken off them.
Yeah, I agree. So I suppose the opportunities then, looking for short leases is the thing.
Yeah.
Looking for short leases, you can contact the freeholder before you even bought it if you wanted to. That's what Elijah did. He reached out, he found out who the freeholder was from the agent, reached out to them because he knew it was a short lease.
Yeah, see if they're up for it.
So if you're looking for flats, a lot of the time on the Rightmove, if you're going on Rightmove, they'll say that it's a short lease. So that's something that you can look for on Rightmove or by asking the agents.
Is that something Deal Sourcer can help with?
You know what? I'm not sure. That's a very good question. I mean, Deal Sourcer is amazing. I'm not sure if it's got short leases on there. I'll have to check that.
Because that would be cool.
That would be cool. I will mention that to them.
Yeah.
I'll mention that to them and say that would be very, very cool. Anyway, guys, hope you found this episode useful. How you extend leases to massively increase the property. You can make a lot of money from doing this as well. If you've enjoyed the show, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It'd be great to have you guys back. In fact, most of our views, I think it's 80% of our views are people that don't subscribe. So subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. I'm Russell Leeds.
I'm Anna Leeds.
And we'll see you next week.